It's just hideous. Hi everyone, Jamie at Clue Amateurs here, and we're back today with another side-by-side review, kind of comparing a few different knives. And today we're looking at UK legal single-bladed folders. So I've got the Böker Plus Tech Tool 1. This is the Heine Haynes Special Edition. You can tell that because it's got the red scales, and if you look on the blade, you've got the Heine logo there. We've got the Victorinox Solo Alox, and we also have the original Victorinox Solo, previously sold as the Adventurer. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on this one, but you can't actually buy these anymore. We can talk a bit about why that is. So, just to give this some context, if you're not aware, in the UK it's a criminal offence to carry a knife with a blade exceeding 3 inches in length, whether it's locking or non-locking, or a knife that locks at all, unless you have a good reason to do so. And that's kind of very open, loose wording. Generally, examples of a good reason would be, say you're a chef and you're carrying good chef's knives to work, or if you're a workman needing a knife for work in some capacity. But this means that all three of these are actually good UK legal EDC knives. And today, hopefully, we're going to find out which one is the best. So we'll start off with the aesthetics, so what they look like. Starting off with the Böker Tech Tool. As I've said, it's got these nice red scales on the Heine one. These are also available in black, and I believe they even do a carbon fibre one. The blade has this beautiful mirror finish, which is really nice, but I really worry about scratching it. You can see the Böker is it Böker Plus? Yeah, Böker Plus logo on there, Heine logo on there, and the blade steel, which is 12C27 Scandiv at the base of the blade. We've also got this nice reversible pocket clip that's really chunky, got a nice spring on it and gives really nice deep carry, which again in the UK is quite important. If you are carrying a knife, even a legal one, it's likely to make people quite uncomfortable because of the culture around knives here. So if you are going to pocket clip it, it's nice to have that deep carry. Moving on then, we've got the Victorinox Alox. Now I think these are just beautiful knives. You've got this lovely textured aluminium scales with this kind of nice grippy finish. You've then got the Victorinox emblem embossed on it there, and again you've got a nice mirror finish blade, and Victorinox, so I've oiled this recently, Swiss made stainless at the bottom. And as I've said, I just think these are lovely looking knives. They're really classy and just generally quite inoffensive, which as I've already said is quite important. These look like the sort of thing your granddad might have had in his pocket, and straight away, if you then need to use this in front of people, it just puts them at ease. Finally, we have this monstrosity. So it comes in this tacky leatherette case. Pull it out, and it's this really grim, drab, kind of maroon nylon. You've got the lanyard hole there, the Swiss flag logo there. Notice it's just the cross, and yeah, it's just hideous. Fold it out and it looks even worse because now you've got this huge handle with this really thin blade. You can see why these didn't catch on and why Victorinox ended up ceasing production. Again though, Victorinox, Swiss made, stainless, and that nice mirror finish, highly polished blade. So that's what they look like. Let's talk a bit now about the materials they're made of. So probably the most impressive is the Böker Tech Tool 1, or Böker Plus Tech Tool 1. Got these G10 scales. I'm not sure how well this will show up on camera, but there's a really nice texture to them where you've got the fibre in the G10. And as I've already said, the blade is 12C27 Scandiv. So this is a harder steel than the Victorinox steel, which means that it will have better edge retention. However, if you're new to knives, if you're not experienced sharpening them, it will take longer to sharpen. It will be a bit more challenging to sharpen. And there we've got more of kind of a drop point rather than a clip point blade, giving it a bit more belly, making it just that, in my opinion, a bit easier to do kind of sweeping cuts with, so you're cutting something out in paper. And at the bottom, we've also got this, which is a hardened steel glass breaker. Now, thankfully, I haven't had an opportunity to test this, but I would be kind of curious to see how well it worked. Moving on then to the Victorinox Alox. As I've already said, we've got these aluminium handles which are allowed to form their own oxide coating, and the mystery Swiss steel of the blade, which is incredibly corrosion proof. You hear stories of people like losing these, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, getting rained on, getting snowed on, found years later and they're still shiny. But this is a relatively soft steel, which means that you can get it razor sharp, but it doesn't have great edge retention. However, it is easy to get sharp again. Finally, the original Victorinox Solo, same mystery Swiss steel, steel liners in there, but these tacky as anything, ugly as hell, nylon scales. So those are the materials. On then to the sizes of them. So I'll start with this one, seeing as I've got it in my hand. This is closed, 11 centimetres long, which if you're on the other side of the pond is just over 4 inches. And this has a 6.5 centimetre cutting edge on the blade, which is just under 3 inches. So this falls just inside what you're allowed to carry in the UK. It's really very chunky, got quite a thick profile there, so that's a centimetre wide, so it's just under half an inch. And yeah, it's really quite a big knife. This is the top end of what you can actually legally carry in the UK. Moving back then to the Victorinox Solo, this is one of the 91mm models, meaning that it has a 61mm cutting edge on the blade. And this has a really nice narrow profile, which I really like. I actually EDC'd one of these for 4, maybe even 5 years, until I lost it and then ended up carrying the Spartan. I've now bought this as a replacement. This is why this one looks so unused. That has a profile of, that's about 8mm. So a really nice slim knife that you can just slip in your pocket. If I'm wearing a suit and I want to carry a knife, I will often pop one of these in the inside pocket and it won't ruin the line of the suit. Finally, the Böker Plus Tech Tool 1. Closed length was 9.5 centimetres if you include the glass breaker, so that's about 4 inches. And the blade is about 6.5 centimetres long, so a slightly longer cutting edge than the Victorinox, and it's also got quite a lot more belly to it. It's a wider blade with a depth of, what's that, about 17mm. And because of that pocket clip, this does have that slightly deeper profile. However, the knife itself has about 9mm profile, so about 9mm wide, excluding the reversible pocket clip. So that's the size. Let's talk a bit now about probably the most important bit, which is the functions and the safety features of these knives. So starting again with the Böker Plus Tech Tool 1, as I've said, you've got that blade with more of a drop point than a clip point blade, which gives a really nice belly to it and a decent point for different cutting tasks. What I will say about this though is that it's got a very light back spring. It's very easy to close even with one finger. Now if you're very competent with knives, you're very careful, or you're just using it for a light task, this might be good because it's very easy to open and close quickly. However, if you're using it for heavier work, or maybe you're a bit clumsier, this might not be the knife for you. You might want something with a heavier back spring that's going to stop it from closing on your fingers. As I've said, we've got this really nice springy reversible pocket clip, so 2 star bits there, 2 star bits there to reverse that, and as I've said, the hardened steel glass breaker. In terms of features on the Solo Alox from Victorinox, really very few, and actually this is what I really like about this. It's just so simple and pared back. It's just a knife, no pocket clip, no lanyard hole, nothing like that, and a nice heavy back spring. That's really almost impossible, okay, not impossible, quite difficult to close with one finger. And this does mean it's that bit safer when you're using it. You're not going to accidentally knock it shut as easily. However, if you do, it's going to come down on your fingers with some force. I think pretty much everyone who's owned a Swiss Army knife has at some point had it close on their fingers. But yeah, super pared back. And as I've said, nice, safe, pretty little knife. Finally, the Victorinox Solo, the original nylon one. Here you've got a lanyard hole, and you've got an incredibly strong backspring on this, probably the strongest of any of the Victorinox knives that I own. Yeah, you really have to use the length of the blade to shut that one-handed, and I'd probably recommend just using 2. As I've said, I really don't like the way this knife looks, but ergonomically it's so comfortable in the hand. I can get my hand wrapped right round there. I feel really secure holding it. And I think this is what Victorinox were going for, kind of a work knife that you could use with cold hands, big hands, wearing gloves. Trouble is, they didn't make it any easier to open. I think what really would have improved this knife, besides improving the colour, would have been some sort of one-hand opening loop like they put on the locking Sentinel, but no such luck. But this does have kind of this nice grippy finish on the nylon handles, nylon scales, which again makes it really easy to hold. And as I've said, lanyard hole, and this really cheap, nasty sheath. I just don't know what they were thinking. It just makes it look like a fake Victorinox product. Didn't really talk that much about the ergonomics of these. These are quite narrow. I have quite big hands, so I find that this kind of gets a bit lost in my hand, but it's alright, you get used to it. But you can see there my hand is wrapped right round it. Kind of filling in the middle ground, you've got the Böker Tech Tool, which actually fits quite nicely there. I'm not mad on pocket clips, I find they sometimes dig into me a bit, but actually this one's nice and wide and rounded, so when you're gripping the knife, it fits quite nicely into kind of this join in your hands. Sorry, this join in your hands. Sorry, totally forgot to do a cutting test. So here I've just got a sheet of A4 and we're just going to quickly test all of these knives. Now, as I've said, I bought this one to replace one that I lost while I was on holiday, so this one is out of the box sharp. And you can really tell. I love how sharp these come. The original Solo I've had for quite a few years. However, again, it was more of just a piece of the collection. It's not one that's seen a huge amount of use, so this one should also be near enough out of the box sharp. And finally, the Böker. I've used a little bit and I haven't sharpened it since, but as I said, it has got that harder steel, so still nice and sharp, with that nice big belly of the blade giving a really nice smooth cut. So all nice and sharp out of the box, as you would expect for a Böker Plus or Victorinox product. Okay, so that's the kind of physical features of the knives, what they look like, functions they've got. So who would carry these? Well, I think these are both good EDC options. I would say that this is more for someone who maybe uses a knife more occasionally or is around people who are less comfortable with knives. It's more friendly looking, it's more classic looking, you probably need two hands to operate it. It all just looks a bit more classic and less threatening. So this, I'd say, would be ideal for someone who doesn't use their knife that much during the day or needs to use their knife around non-knife people. The Böker Tech Tool, it's not a tactical EDC knife, but it has the styling cues of one. It has the G10 handles, it has the sweeping blade profile, it has the pocket clip and the glass breaker. So I'd say this is more for someone who is either working alone or around people who are comfortable with them having a knife. And also for someone who's either using the knife for lighter tasks because of that lighter back spring, or who is constantly getting the knife out, putting it away, getting it out, putting it away to do different jobs. So I'd say this is more of a knife guy's knife, whereas the Victorinox is perhaps more of an everyman's knife, something that anyone could carry. These actually make really good gifts. So I got my girlfriend it was the Bantam, one with the bottle opener and the knife, and she loves it, even though she's not that interested in knives. Finally, the original Victorinox Solo. As I said, you can't buy these anymore, but I think the intended target market was someone who needed a working knife. But possibly in somewhere like Germany or the UK where there are quite restrictive knife laws. As I said, it's got this big grippy handle, longer blade and a stronger back spring, so this was meant to be more of a heavy duty offering. However, it really did just never catch on. It also actually has a thinner blade than the Solo Alox, so actually this maybe isn't as suited to heavy duty work as the Solo Alox. So that brings us on then to how much these cost. So the Solo is relatively hard to get hold of now, not many places stock them. However, you can get these for I believe about £20 on Knives and Tools. So £20, pretty cheap. When I built my first one of these, I think I only paid £13–14 for it, so these have gone up in price. And obviously if you go through an actual high street shop or through Victorinox, you will pay more for these, but on the whole, really good value knife. The Böker Plus Tech Tool 1, The Heine one with the red scales and the logo on the blade, you can pick these up for £20 when they're in stock, which they are as I'm filming this. The other offerings in different coloured scales are slightly more expensive. So the black scales, I believe, are £32 on Heine, and the carbon fibre even more than that. So the Heine version of this, the special edition, is the same price as the Victorinox Solo Alox. However, the other variants of it are that bit more expensive. Finally, the original Victorinox Solo. These, as I've said, you can't buy anymore. However, if I remember rightly, I paid £15 or £16 for this. There doesn't seem to be much of a used market for this, even amongst collectors, even though they're a discontinued product. But I think they are just that ugly. I'm sorry, but they are. So that's the price. I think that's just about everything I have to say about these knives, which brings us on to a conclusion. So which of these is the best UK legal EDC? Well, it's not going to be this, because it's ugly as hell and you can't buy them anymore. But I do kind of love it, and I do like having it in my collection. That leaves these two. And as is often the case with these reviews, which is the best EDC is kind of a case of horses for courses. It's what you need in an EDC. If you need something you can constantly grab out of your pocket, quickly open and close, and people don't mind that much that they can see you've got a knife, it's probably the Böker Plus. As long as you're confident sharpening it, because it does have that slightly harder steel. If you are doing something more heavy duty, if you're less competent with a knife, or you're around people who are less confident in you having a knife, then this is probably the one for you, because it can vanish into your pocket, vanish into your bag, and it's just there to grab when you need it. But on the whole, both of these at around the £20 mark are incredibly good value UK legal EDC knives. So that's about it for today. Hopefully you found this useful, hopefully you found this interesting. If you have, please do hit that like button, do consider subscribing. We do knife stuff on this channel, we do airgun stuff on this channel, we do all kinds of stuff, and hopefully there's something for everyone. Do let me know what you think about these knives, or if you have any extra information on them, please do pop it in the comments. But right now that's all. I've been Jamie, this has been Cluey Amateurs, and we'll see you next time.